Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode in our CPO Guide series. I'm Paul Kingsbury, author of the second edition of the Chief Petty Officer's Guide. And today we're going to take some time and talk about your information power base. So have you ever heard that information is power? And I think a lot of us Chief Petty Officers we're definitely familiar with that mantra of ask the chief. And both of those speak to the power of information and what you do with it once you have it. Several advantages that your information power base will bring you. So number one, if you use it correctly, it'll help improve team readiness. It can help improve your personal decision making and your persuasion, your ability to persuade others to do things you need them to do. And it can improve your personal competence and then in turn your credibility and the trust that you gain within your teams. So out there, at least in the Navy side, lots of sources of information flowing around that you should or shouldn't know. And what makes information powerful is it's access to information that others don't know about or that others don't have access to. And what you do with that information that you do know about or you may have access to is important, and that's what gives you some strength in this power base. It's a subcomponent of your expert power. So expert power could be demonstrated by what you can do, right? And a lot of that is your knowledge base. But your information power base and where you get source of information feeds directly into your expert power base. So it strengthens your expert power base, but it also gives you source of information that you can wield in several ways. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. So some general source of information that are out there. So we've got regulations and instructions. So once again, those may be known kind of informally by many people in the Navy, more junior people, but they may not know the sources that those are derived from. So at this point in your career as a Chief Petty Officer or Senior Petty Officer, you should be very familiar with regulations that are out there that cover the gamut of things. Naval regulations, Uniform Code of Military Justice, uniform regs, advancement manual. These are things that you should have good working knowledge of where to get information. You don't have to have those things memorized, but you should know where to get those sources of information. You have NAV admins that come out. And those keep you informed in big policy changes that are going on. They make you aware of reward power or rewards that are out there. Many award programs are announced via NAV admins, selection board results, and things like that. So having access to that online, they even make an app now for NAV admins is important because it can give you access to information, at least in the short term, that makes you the person who's in the know, per se. Lots of websites out there. From the Navy website, Navy Personnel Command website's a huge source of information on your on those kind of things. And then you've got your ones of choice that you may want to use to strengthen it. And it's not just Navy websites. You might be a part of a professional organization, and I'll talk a little bit about how those help information or strengthen your information power. But they have member-only access to their websites in many cases that you can get access to. You've got your news sources, right? So for Navy purposes, you got things like Chinfo clips that come out. That document comes out. You can sign up for it. And it gives you a series of articles all the way that cover the strategic level, what's going on, big picture decision making, all the way down to tactical level things that are impacting you day to day. Navy policies across DoD. Great source of information is Chinfo clips. It's a series of articles. You don't have to read them all. But I recommend you do a quick search for Chinfo clips and sign up, and those will come to your inbox every day. Source of information that most sailors don't have access to. Podcasts are out there. I don't even know a variety of, I know obviously we've got the Proceedings podcast. There's a few others that I'm following, but there's so many podcasts out there that serve as a great source of information and connect you with other people. So if you've got those or you learn about those can, especially if they're in areas of expertise that others may not have access to, that can help strengthen your information power base. Then we get into things like need to know information. So personnel records and databases, right? So the more senior you get, you can check out, and if you're in charge of division as an LPO or Chief Petty Officer, division officer, what have you, you've got access to service records. So when people come in, you sit down, you've got access to information about these people that you can use to your advantage. And then during those personal interviews that I'll talk next, is the information they provide you gives you more information that you can use to shape your influence tactics as you move forward with your objectives. One of them is like the Fleet Temps database. that many people are not familiar with. The higher you get up, you can get access, and you can gain access to information on other people. Hopefully, and I'll talk about using information. This is not supposed to be used in a deceptive, coercive kind of way, but these are sources of information that make you a better leader to better help and enable your teams to accomplish the mission objectives you're after. And then finally, right, the information that you gain from people, individually, groups, through social networks, and things like that, right? So you can get a lot of information from people just having a conversation. So it doesn't have to be a formal career development board or a check-in interview. You can get a lot of information just by taking people to the side and just asking them, hey, what's going on? If you're on late watch, learning a little bit, and people will give you information on things that should give you good insight on how to best approach and influence them to make them a better productive part of your organization. So lots of sources of information. I didn't even cover them all. There's lots of them out there. Go talk to your peers that are out there. They can probably turn you on to a lot more information. Information is constantly being updated. The source of information are changing. So back to that importance of staying relevant and understanding when your source of information are changing and when new ones arrive. There's all kinds of stuff out there. So stay up on that to keep yourself strong in your information power base. So you got the information, but what you do with it is more important, right? That's what matters. And there's really 3 different things you can do with this information. Once again, I'm teaching you the positive ways, or I want to talk about positive ways to use your power base's influence tactics. But if you get into things like, power, you go back and look in history at what people have done to seize positions of power, dictators, kings, what have you. Look at Game of Thrones, for example, right? You'll see how people use information to their advantage in a more sinister way. I'm talking about using information in a positive way. So the first thing I want to encourage you to do is when you have information, you disseminate it, right? So you want to get that information out there to strengthen your teams, to increase their knowledge, to use it to improve your training and readiness. That's one way you'll do it. The more source of information, right, that you can get, the more you disseminate it, right? I mentioned this last time. Now you're frankly, your expert power base is strengthened because you're taking this information, you're going out, and then you're teaching your teams to apply it and how they can use it. And then yes, you want them to become proficient in this source of information and getting sources of information as you train and develop your reliefs. Part of what you're training for them in their expert power base, frankly, is sources of information that they can get. Now, what they do with that information that they have access with is up to them. But you strengthen yourself by pushing out as much information as you can. So, and that's going to in turn increase your personal credibility and increase your personal power. The next thing you can do, you can withhold information. And I'm not saying that's necessarily bad. Once again, the context of things matters. So there's times when you're going to have to withhold. And when would you withhold? So first thing you would withhold information for is if you want to protect people. So I'll use the simple example of if you're on an aircraft carrier and you're doing an underway replenishment, you're alongside, lots of people are engaged and focus on that evolution. And perhaps the CEO gets knowledge that, hey, ops got knowledge that, hey, they're changing the ship schedule and, we're going to extend our deployment. Probably during that unrep is not the time you want to let the crew know, right? Because immediately when you put that out, that's probably not going to shift them to high levels of commitment. It's probably going to bum them out for a bit and misfocus them. So there's a time and a place for pushing out information. So that may be one reason you want to hold it, to protect someone. Maybe you've come across information that someone knows about them, a boyfriend or girlfriend's cheating, something like that. You might not want to be the person to deliver that necessarily, and you might want to withhold it in the short term, okay? The other thing you can do, now you get into more sinister stuff, I can withhold information to control people, and I can withhold information so other people don't know where it's going to, so I look like the go-to person, right? So in a selfish way, I withhold this information to keep myself as the single sole source, right? And for whatever reason people do that, maybe they're insecure, maybe they feel weak in their expert power base, but usually in many cases, making yourself the go-to source, I don't think is a positive thing to do. And I'll talk a little bit about the risk you're taking here in a second. And the third thing you can do is you can manipulate information. So a lot of talk these days about fake news. So you got to validate your sources of information, right? So people that are feeding you information may be manipulating it to their own ends, right? And those might not be in your best interest. But But I think when you manipulate information, one less sinister way I would do it, right, is, hey, there's two sides to every argument, right? So I might shape my, I might have information on certain statistics about an argument that put that argument in my favor. So it strengthens my rational persuasion attempt to influence other people. So that would be a less sinister way of using it. And then you get into, hey, I'm going to manipulate information to control or deceive, right? And once again, context matters. So on your personal relationships with people and teams, I don't want you using this. We don't want to manipulate information to control or deceive. But it may be something as the norm, but it may be something that you do if you're going to couple it with some of your other power bases. And I'll talk through a few of those in a minute. We do this in warfare, right? We deceive, right? We use information that intel gains. And maybe we've got information on certain things that we don't want the enemy to know that we have information on, right? So we will withhold and deceive it, right, to meet our war fighting objectives. But usually when you're talking about your one-on-one personal interactions with people, you're taking more risk than you are good with withholding or manipulating information. So like with all other power bases, you can couple this one with other power bases. So I can couple information power with coercive power. I've always told I can couple information power with reward power, right? I can give you information and reward. And I can use my connection power to strengthen my information power base, right? So through my connection power and the people I know, I get access to more information, or I learn about other sources of information that others may not know or have access to as well. Okay, so as with all things, context and intent of using this power base matter. So I'm going to caution you, if you're going to withhold or manipulate information, do that, at risk to your own personal power base, because if people get root that you've been doing that and it's not serving their best interests, your personal power base is going to take a hit, your credibility is going to drop, and the trust within your organization is going to erode. Okay, so talk through some of those situations within the mess with your peers, with leaders who've been there, done that. Learn about how they share information. Walk through some cases when they've withheld it or manipulated information, actually to help to good effect, or where it caused bad effects as well, so you can get a better sense of that. So question to ask yourself: what am I doing to strengthen my information power base, and how am I using this power base to improve the readiness and the warfighting readiness of my team? Okay, so a little talk on information power. So thanks again for watching. If you haven't gotten the Chief Petty Officer's Guide, it's available again at www.usni.org/press/books. If you put in promo code CPO40, you'll get 40% off the CPO guide for watching this video series. Good luck to you. I want you to take this information. I want you to learn. I want you to reflect. I want you to improve. And then I want you to go out and make a positive difference in the people and the teams you're leading. Until next time, I'll see you then.